Welcome to the Unborn Prisoner Project, a channel focused on promoting information about pregnancy and incarceration in the state of Maine. I'm KJ, your host, and today we are having a conversation with Amanda Woolford, Director of Women's Services for Maine Department of Corrections. Thank you so much for being here, Amanda.
My pleasure.
Would you like to take a moment to introduce yourself a little bit further and explain your current position, as well as the connection you've had to pregnancy and incarceration throughout the span of your career?
Sure. As KJ mentioned, my name is Amanda Woolford. I've been with the Department of Corrections for about 17 years now. I did start on the juvenile side, so I was a juvenile probation officer for the first 5 or 6 years here up in Maine. And at that time, that's when I really developed, this desire to work with girls and women. I had an all-female caseload at the time, and I really took to that population. Prior to that, I really had only worked with juveniles, justice involved juveniles that were, male. So I didn't really have the experience with the female population, but that's really where my, expertise started to grow and wanting to learn more about this population because they're so underserved in the criminal justice, venue. So that's really where that took off. Currently, my position is the Director of Women's Programs for the Department of Corrections. So what that basically is I serve as the warden for our 2 female facilities here in Windham. So we only have the 2 for the state of Maine. We have a higher custody facility, and then we have the pre-release that's down on River Road. That's more of a residential transitional program to get folks ready to go back home or back into the community, whatever their path might look like. In terms of what that looks like for pregnancies, obviously overseeing the entire female population. I see them at all points, and whether that's learning they're pregnant at intake because they may not have had an awareness, and we do pregnancy tests for all incoming residents, or them coming in near the end and developing birth plans that work for their families and work for the individual, and then obviously looking for the best interest of the child at that time, and then continuing that support throughout the incarceration, whether that's, a few months or a few years. Everybody's track is different. Like I mentioned, we're the only facility, so we get folks from 9 months and a day to life. So that looks a little bit different for everyone.
When comparing DOC's policies state to state, Maine actually appears to be more progressive than what we may see across the United States. Can you speak a little bit more to that? Like, what kind of systemic changes have you witnessed Maine make that help to improve the lived experiences of people in custody, especially expecting parents?
Sure. So, one of the things that we have going for us is a rather small incarcerated population here in the state of Maine. I've seen a high of about, 250, 260 to a low of almost under 100, depending on where you look at the trajectory. 2017 seemed to be a booming year, and then we went into the pandemic. So those numbers shifted a little bit. Because we have those smaller populations, it's very easy to take a look at the needs of a smaller group and say, okay, we need a policy change here, or we need to enhance our practices here. But we also have the advantage of having a really supportive administration. We have a governor that's really supportive of our policies and practices. Our commissioner, Randall Liberty, is, very progressive. So presenting policies that are women-centered, that are even, person-centered. It doesn't even have to be about women. We made a ton of changes internally for, normalization, humanization, changing just the practices of the words we use because we know that they're damaging and they hold harm. So just really being cognizant of the, as these state entities are, there's a lot of power with that. But there's power to do good too. So with that, I think we've taken the responsibility to really, enhance our practices and do better because we know better now. We know where housing doesn't work. We know treatment and programming and long-term goal planning, so like education and job skills, are the key to keeping folks out of our prison system. So that's really where that came from, this overarching holistic look at corrections. But within that, we were able to make a lot of really great policy changes when it came to shackling, birth plans, visitation after birth, elevated level of the number of visitations that an individual can have. So just again, being really person-centered around that.
There is a lot of talk around, prisons and corrections serving as sort of like a safety net for healthcare. How is accessing healthcare for people who are incarcerated different than people who are not incarcerated?
I hate to say this, just coming from a person who lives in the community and has to access her own healthcare. It's a little easier to navigate because of a couple of things. One, every resident has a case manager. So making phone calls or advocating, they kind of have that cheerleader kind of built in for them. And then, as they come into our system, it's nuts and bolts, right? We take a whole look. When I say person-centered, we really take a public health approach to that individual. We look at, what do you need for substance use treatment? What do you need for education? What do you need, just for physical health? So that's kind of where we start their journey, is doing all these assessments to include a medical workup. We get labs done. We get, those annual, pap smears and, breast exams for women who may not even have had one before, because again, access to healthcare in the community is really, really hard. So we get those appointments set up. I think maybe one thing that's a little bit different for the women in our system is that, specifically to the pregnant women, but for those specialties like the OB and the breast care, we send them out to a specialist. We don't take that on ourselves. Those are really important things, especially because of the linkages to cancer and other, health issues. We want to make sure that we get it right the first time so we can start treatment if that's what's necessary, or the woman can make that choice. So that's where I think we differ a little bit, is that we kind of are that one-stop shop. So we have a dentist on site, we have an eye doctor that comes in. So all those needs are met in one place. So it's a little bit different where you and I would have to go to each individual stop. And that all kind of happens, except for those specialties, like I mentioned, right there on site.
Thank you for going into that a little bit deeper. Now, because you say you take a whole person public health approach, could you speak a little bit more to the day-to-day care that might differ for pregnant residents versus non-pregnant residents?
Sure. So you might see a change in diet. So they may have a special meal. They may have, like I said, outside appointments, depending on who the female is and what she requests for her birth plan. She might have a Zoom meeting with a doula or a midwife. If those are her choices, she might have meetings with her family to talk about extended care for the child. Again, it's really individual. We might have conversations with an adoption agency if that's the route she chooses to go. So it really runs again. There's no typical day. You are talking about a population that's typically high risk in their pregnancies, though. So we want to make sure that we're getting, making sure that they're not going downstairs, they're not having elevated workloads, stressors are low. You want to just kind of take the steps to make sure that they're making healthy choices throughout the day as well. Extra mattresses if needed, extra pillows. Some of us develop heartburn halfway through, so all of those things that come up in a normal pregnancy, we want to make sure that we're offering assistance through that to make them as comfortable as possible. Because we want, if they choose to keep the baby, we want to make sure that they have a healthy pregnancy and that the baby is given the best shot that they can.
So, what else would you like the public to know about either correctional healthcare or just incarceration in general, especially as the public starts to speak more about sustainable communities and there's a lot of talk about reform? So, as someone who is a stakeholder in this topic, what kind of misconceptions would you like to clear up, or what just sort of advice would you like to give? Any sort of, yeah, your time to say whatever you'd like to the public.
Sure. So I think there's a misconception that, those who are incarcerated just kind of sit around and watch, free cable on the taxpayers' dollars all day, or, they get the finest things. And of course, these are all on the taxpayers' dimes. And this couldn't be further from the truth. Their cable, they actually pay for through the Resident Benefit Fund, which is profits that come in through their canteen and their commissary, their phone system. So that's what covers that. The prison system, our correctional facilities are busy places. Folks are not sleeping their beds away. They are involved in education. They're involved in vocation. They're on crews that garden. We have a really robust agricultural program that feeds our culinary programs, which feeds our residents. So, it's this circular community really that we're talking about. Uh, there is opportunities for, completing high set or engaging in college education, whether that's just grabbing a few credits before they release or, getting an entire bachelor's degree through the Second Chance Pell Grant. We have a really great relationship with the University of Maine at Augusta, Washington County Community College, MIT offers courses to us. We've been really fortunate to have some phenomenal partnerships in our communities that reach out and they see the value of offering opportunities to this population that wouldn't have otherwise had these opportunities. When you offer folks who again have not otherwise had these opportunities, the option to live a sustaining life, to have a job that makes a living wage versus a minimum wage. You're not tempted to go into nefarious acts to make ends meet. So when folks have options, you see recidivism rates drop. When folks have access to housing and folks have access to the job market, which obviously right now in the state of Maine, the jobs are not an issue. They can walk out tomorrow with a job, but it's where are they going to live while they're working in that job. We can have some really great jobs if we have nowhere to house them. That's really the issue that we're running into now. We do have a lot of sober residents popping up in our communities, which is helpful, but it's really helping those individuals really rebuild their natural supports in the community because we do go away. We're not there forever. We certainly want to help get them on the best foot, but we are fully aware that we will not be there forever. So we do a lot of in-house training for peer supports, whether it be mental health peer support or peer recovery coaches. Obviously, a majority of our population has a substance use disorder, and we really want to focus on that because, obviously relapse is super dangerous, and we want to make sure that we're giving warm handoffs to our community. We are fully integrated with our MAT, so our medicated assisted treatment. So folks, it is universal. You don't have to wait, to a certain period. Like, I'm down to my last 30 days. Now we can offer Suboxone. It's not like that. We want to make sure that the folks are coming in and they're not having cravings. So we're not getting drugs coming in through the mail or visitors or things like that. And that's really helped dissuade a lot of that activity. So we can focus on the things that are important, like education and vocation and mental health programming. You talked about, the overall healthcare system, right? And I mentioned how hard it is to access this in the community. So what ends up happening is folks are self-medicating, right? Folks with, significant mental illness, it's really hard to live with some of these things. So, they do turn to drugs and alcohol. So we have kind of this dual diagnosis that we have to deal with when they come in. And we have some phenomenal mental health providers. And, I think, our historical view is a warehouse, right? We have cells, they come out, they eat chow, they, maybe wreck for a little bit and then they go back in. Well, that's not the case at all. They have programming, they have meetings with their mental health providers. We're picking up all those pieces that they weren't able to grab in the community, and we're kind of putting it all together. And that's really what I mean when I say holistic, is really all of those pieces. Honestly, I wish we had a different name because we're not a prison. Prison is synonymous with that warehousing. We're a full-on treatment facility for everything, and not just substance use or mental health or, problematic sexual behavior. We do all of it, and we do all of it in one place. And honestly, the folks we have within those walls doing that work are some of the best I've ever met. And I'm grateful for the staff that we have because they really care. They really develop those relationships. We've shifted, I mentioned with the administration shift and our commissioner and things being very progressive, we've been doing all these changes and we kind of wanted to put a name to it. So we've labeled it the Maine model of corrections. We've taken a lot of European influences, a lot of the Norway model, the Scandinavian model, and taken the pieces that we liked and taken some of the pieces that we know work here and kind of just mixing them all together to really improve our outcomes. So it's a really exciting time to be in corrections because we're actually correcting. and we're not warehousing. And there's been so much change, and just philosophically, we're light years where we were, even 20 years ago. So, grateful to be part of that team, grateful to be part of that movement, and grateful that I'm able to go out into the, speak at other conferences and have people from other states come up and say, oh, we really want to see this, or how are you pulling this off, or how are you able to do this? And, I just say you got to eat that elephant one bite at a time. You can't, all of this change that I just mentioned did not happen overnight. And would be fools to think it would. But if you start with one initiative and then you add to that, you start to develop that cultural change. And that's really what that means to say Maine model of corrections is that cultural shift to that normalization, that humanization, that these are people that are going to be back in our neighborhoods and we want good neighbors. So what are we going to do to offer, influence that? So I would say that in a nutshell is my soapbox speech. So
No, thank you. Thank you so much. I really took away so much from this conversation, and I'm sure our viewers will as well. I'm so grateful for your time today. Again, everyone, this is Amanda Woolford with the Maine Department of Corrections. And this is the Unborn Prisoner Project. Stay tuned for more content and have a great day, everyone.
you too. Take care.